Last episode of CHGO Stars, the team had a remarkable win in their home opener over the reigning Shield winners, the KC Current. It's been pretty much all downhill from there. 3 losses in a row. Offense can't get anything going. So we're going to touch on what we have to, but then we're going to get to some NWSL action around the league now that we're a few weeks in, and the U.S. Women's National Team are in the middle of a big window. We'll talk about that as well today on CHGO Stars. Coming at you live from Studio West inside the CHGO headquarters at Madison and Racine in beautiful Chicago. This is CHGO Stars presented by Sunnyside. Visit sunnyside.shop for bright buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Enter promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. Bright buys every day. Only for 21 and over or Illinois medical card holders. Hello, welcome. I'm Alex Campbell. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening wherever you might be, whether live or later. And congratulations, because if you can hear the sound of my voice, you have scored as many goals as the Chicago Stars have since the last time we had one of these shows. 3 losses in a row. It has not been great. We're going to move on to other things as well once we cover the basics there. And as a result, I am very excited today to be joined for a second time here on the program by Tara of Boots on the Ground and the Scuffed podcast universe, I suppose I should say. Tara, thanks for being back on the show. Great to have you here, and apologies that you're here first to talk about the Chicago Stars and the mess that they are.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. And, albeit they are awful, I do have some players on Chicago that I really enjoy. So I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, there are players that I enjoy too, although we have not gotten to watch them have all that much fun so far this season. So we're going to go relatively quickly through these 3 games because, my goodness. Stars 0, Orlando 3. The only good thing I can say about this is it did not end 10-0, which it felt like it could have. The best moment of the game comes from current USWNT camp inclusion, Jamise Joseph, who's playing as a striker in this game. She drops deep, picks up a pass in a false 9 position and plays Ryan Garrison behind, who has a great look at goal, blasts her shot way off target. But I think, in terms of recent games, Tara, this is maybe the best moment where we got to see, okay, this is what Emma Hayes sees in Jamise Joseph, that maybe we don't get to see that much of her in league play because this team just doesn't have the ball all that much.
Yeah, I mean, Emma's been really upfront that Jamise maybe wouldn't be in the picture if she was just a winger. But her skill set centrally is what we are looking for as a national team. She's great at that hold-up play, and I think, she showed, flashes of it here. She can get a lot better, but it was promising.
Yeah, and then, we get the first 2 Orlando goals, which are in some ways carbon copies in that Maitane Lopez tries to carry the ball out of a lot of traffic and instead proceeds just to hand it to Orlando. The first time it gets played through, first time, and Barbara Banda scores as her and Alyssa Nair clatter into each other. And then the second one ends with a really cool finish from Jackie Ovalle, who has a nice little backheel flick into the bottom corner. I mean, this became a theme over this last few weeks, and if we can all see it and Martin Sjögren can't, I'm not sure what we're supposed to expect, because this has just been a thing where Maitane has become a one-woman pressing trigger for opposing teams, and it just keeps happening, and I'm not sure what you can even say about it at this point, given that no real adjustments are being made from a coaching perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I think this coach is a real goon. I mean, what are even his qualifications up until this point? It seems like the NWSL is far too much of a job to handle.
We're going to get into more examples of that later with, how some young players aren't getting playing time. Speaking of players who didn't get playing time, goal number 3, this is just the Hannah Anderson revenge game. The former Rookie of the Year contender 2 years ago in the NWSL played almost every minute at center back for this team, was great. And then like 3 different coaches last year all collectively decided they didn't think she was very good. Orlando get her on the cheap as an Emily Sams replacement, and she is now a locked-in starter for this team on the back line. Gets a goal in this game because of course she did. It ends 3-0. I said that game could have been way worse. Speaking of a game that could have been way worse, San Diego 2, Chicago 0. I guess I got kind of what I wanted in this game in that Maitane got benched, but the solution was to replace her in the double pivot with Brianna Pinto, who, is definitely a defensive midfielder and definitely not a 9.5 kind of
Yeah.
pressing forward. Sure. I mean, why not play B. Franklin in her natural position? Or why not acknowledge that Leilani Nesbitt is on your team? Again, this is like the 4th coach in a row who just won't play Nesbitt. I don't get it. San Diego had the ball the entire first half, did basically nothing. This was a tough watch for the opening 45 minutes because it's not even like San Diego were doing cool things. They were kind of just creating the horseshoe around the Stars' low block, which I guess was keeping them out. Until the 56th minute when Pinto, who could have seen this coming, having an attacker play defensive midfielder, she doesn't track her runner out of midfield. She overruns the play. B. Franklin, the center mid playing center back, doesn't make a challenge. Nair should save this. She doesn't. It goes in. This unfortunately, Tara brings up a point that was made toward the end of Nair's national team career before she kind of rebounded spectacularly for that final run. She's not the tallest goalkeeper, and she has this issue where she hugs her near post. And yes, there was lots of defensive mistakes made before this, but this is already the 3rd or 4th goal this season that Nair just should not be letting past her.
I've been wanting to talk to you about Nair for a while, just as somebody who's, glued into the Stars. I'm I don't understand why she's not retired right now. I mean, I think she hasn't been great for a while. And yeah, like the Olympics can gloss over a lot of those issues. She was phenomenal. But for Chicago, I mean, what's keeping her? What's keeping her in the lineup? Just her name?
Yeah, it's been strange because and I think a lot of people, when it lined up that her contract was expiring at the same time Boston was coming into the league. She's a Connecticut native. She's if you want to call that corner of Connecticut, Metro Boston, that's the closest to a hometown big city as she's still got a lot of extended family who live there. And so my assumption, and I think a lot of people's, was, okay, she'll sign a 1 year there, be a marquee face of a new team, a way to put butts in seats, and right off into the sunset. Instead, what Boston do is they go and they get Casey Murphy from North Carolina, another former member of that goalkeeping crew at the Olympics who has fallen on some tougher times since then. They go and get Murphy instead. Nair was just kind of out there for a couple months, ends up re-signing in Chicago, I guess because she's just here already. And then, as we'll note more in the Utah game, Katie Atkinson, Nee Lund, who lost her job to Jordan Bloomer in Louisville, she's here. A proven NWSL starter and maybe a bit too high profile to be just a backup. And so that has kind of cast a shadow over this. And so I think, again, for what my other criticisms of Martin Sjögren, I don't envy him for maybe having to be the guy who has to do this, which is to be the coach who basically has to pull the plug on Alyssa Nair's professional career. You don't want to see a legend like her go out in a way that could look like a benching. We'll have to wait and see because we were predictably told that this was just a rotation because of a busy week. We'll find out after the international break when they return to the field and who's between the posts for this Stars team. Because, I don't know about you, Tara. I want it to be Atkinson.
I do too. I think it would quite honestly be unexcusable not to, with the way Chicago's been playing. You got to take a risk. And I think about it in terms of Angel City. Like Angel City, they really, were questionable with Kristen Press. And yet, they got the job done a lot. And Kristen Press, the expectation was she needed to come out there and play 90 all the damn time. But she wasn't capable of doing that anymore.
Right.
And that was a really hard decision, and the fans hated it. But I think Angel City's better off because of it, because of not, building their team around these landmark names. So, I mean, does Chicago even have the fan base to revolt like Angel City does?
I mean, at this point, no, I don't think so as much, just because, again, I think we all around here see like the writing on the wall. Like, Alyssa Nair owes this team nothing. She has been here for over a decade.
Yeah.
Again, she owes this team nothing. She's given her all, and it really feels that I'm gutted for no one more than her that this team did not get a championship in those seasons leading up to the pandemic. I think, obviously everything breaks apart because of the Rory Dame scandal. But in terms of
Yeah.
the on the field team, that team going into 2020, I mean, that was going to be the last year of that window for them to maybe do something, because as that, that midfield group was aging, you had a bunch of players in their prime. You had Sam freaking Kerr had still been around there for a while. Again, that team was so good. Yuki Nagasato on that team, Julie Ertz, rookie Tierna Davidson, Sarah Gordon, Casey Short. That team ruled. And they
So good.
somehow didn't win anything because they kept getting to finals, and then the North Carolina Courage were like, hi, we play these things all at Wake Med for some reason, and we're going to put 5 goals on you. Anyway, I do want to also then talk about the second goal in this game, Tara, because this is an opportunity for us to get on maybe our go-to soapbox about this Chicago Stars team and not playing their children, because Melanie Barcenas just scores an absolute golazo for San Diego in the 72nd minute. Holy hell, this was good. Mana Hayashi, who I think has been really good this season in general, just plays a through ball to a San Diego player. No one in a Stars shirt even in the area. Barcenas proceeds to put both Katrin Hendrick and B. Franklin in an absolute blender. Nair's got no shot at this one. You put 3 goalies in the net. This goes in, upper 90, roofed, laser. This is where I mentioned that Michaela Johnson played 2 minutes in this game. And it's just, Barcenas is maybe a bit of an outlier because she is basically the successor to Olivia Moultrie in Portland was basically, hey, with Moultrie, it was, is it okay to play a 16-year-old in a professional women's soccer game? And then with Barcenas, it was, is it okay to play a 15-year-old in a professional women's soccer game? And she has been very slowly brought along since. I believe she's 17 now.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And she's just one of several players who we see week in and week out ball out in the NWSL and are on a fast track to a national team future. And then you look at a team like Chicago, who's struggling mightily, and a player like Michaela Johnson, who keeps getting used in national team call-ups, despite the fact that she doesn't play at club level, cannot get on the field. And it's just, as a Chicago sports fan, this is kind of a familiar refrain. If you're going to be bad, at least be fun bad. And I feel like not playing Michaela Johnson is basically opting out of the fun bad possibility for this team. Because, again, I've said this before, I'll say it again. To quote, I believe it was Bruce Arena talking about Clint Dempsey, quote, he tries shit. And that's what Michaela Johnson does. And I think that's all fans of this team want, is they want to see players who are hungry, who want to try to do cool things. If you haven't seen the post today from the U.S. Women's National Team of a little rondo in training, which they basically posted just because Jamise Joseph does an awesome spin, turn, and backheel pass in one motion that makes everybody watching just cheer and go crazy. Like, that's all anybody wants. And so please just give us more than 2 minutes a game of Michaela Johnson.
Well, what I get stuck on is, think about what could be in the end of May. If you've got Katie in goal, you finally remember you have a decorated Stanford center back drafted, which is currency in this league. Like, it's as good as gold. You remember Elise Evans exists, you have Sam Staub, you play Michaela Johnson, you play Jamise Joseph centrally, and Amal Swanson comes back. Like, we could be looking at a fun summer, but instead we're just digging the hole deeper and deeper because the coach, feels like, he doesn't have a creative bone in his body, or he's just cowardly right now.
Yeah, and the midfield is just kind of a black hole because you look at it, it's like, okay, you can play a couple good defenders. You have some wing backs who are very fun and productive. You have forwards and attackers who are fun. And you've got Julia Grosso, who's best used as a 10. But then behind her, it's just, you have not been able, again, it's been Maitane and Hayashi have been the most common combo. What I'd personally like to see is I'd like to see them go to a back three and put Maitane in the center of it, because I think she is a good against the ball player. She's defensively very solid and is
Yeah.
someone who, as long as she is looking forward with the ball, can be effective in possession. She just can't play on the half turn at all. And I think you need to stop asking her to do it. No, I think there are some tweaks that can make this team serviceable and fun. And again, it's as we'll transition here to talking about the Utah game briefly. Sjögren said after this game, he's like, yeah, when we're against the ball, we look compact, we look organized, we look good, we look like we know what we're doing. And then as soon as we get the ball, we basically can't do anything with it. This game was sad. It ends 1-0 in favor of Utah. They just unleashed a barrage of shots into the Stars' low block. They couldn't get out. Kind of anticlimactic the way this eventually gets broken up. It's by VAR on what I thought was kind of a soft foul call against Tessa Delarose. Not that Utah did not deserve to win this game. I do, though. The only thing we want to linger on here is that Katie Atkinson makes 9 saves in this game and was the only bright spot for the Stars in this 90 minutes. And to the point we were making earlier, I think showed why she's earned another start, if nothing else.
Yeah, I mean, she looked great. She has, you know, the last time she was in Louisville, she imploded a bit, so we know she's capable of that. But is the listener not imploding? Like you got to think about next steps.
Yeah. And to cap this off before we move on to all the things that aren't the Stars, I decided to do some looking at a statistical comparison over the last 3 games
Okay.
between the Stars and their opponents. Goals 6-0,
Ooh.
shots 57-13, shots on target 22-4, expected goals 5.2 to 0.77, corner kicks 22-5. I mean, it has just been 3 weeks of getting absolutely bludgeoned by
How
3 different teams.
is it public knowledge? I don't remember. Do we know how much Haidema's costing this team? Because that is horrendous numbers.
I mean, she's been injured, which who could have predicted that Jordan Haidema, whose main issue has been that she can't stay healthy, in part because she's a battering ram of a striker who takes a lot of contact. So it's kind of just going to happen. I mean, I kind of assume she signed a contract extension upon her signing from Seattle. So at the very least, she's making whatever Seattle was paying her. So that's a big chunk of change.
Yeah.
No, again, and I think she could be really useful for this team as a target forward, given that this team can't seem to progress the ball. I think there's a lot of potential to be gained in maybe just, hey, have Sam Staub just hit lasers at the 6-foot-tall center forward. But again, the 6-foot-tall center forward has to be out there in order to hit those lasers at her, and that is kind of a constant problem. All right, enough about the Stars. Let's, Tara, I have you here, and, as somebody who co-hosts a podcast that focuses on all things both NWSL and USWNT, let's get into those sorts of things. Team near the top of the table that I'm a little surprised is there, given their roster construction and how weird it is. The Portland Thorns, roster construction weird, but Sophia Smith back, and this team is just a ton of fun as long as you've got Jessie Fleming and Olivia Moultrie each running a marathon every game to cover all the grass in midfield that no one else is responsible for.
Yeah, I mean, if you would have told me how well Jessie Fleming and Olivia Moultrie were going to be playing together with Sam Coffey out, a few months ago, I would have laughed at you. I would have thought you were
Yeah.
crazy. There's no way I would have believed in this midfield, but they're doing it. They're warriors out there. And, I really like Pietra Torden.
Mm-hmm.
Her playing time is going to be something to watch as Soph gets fully, in the mix, especially after this Japan camp where Sophia is going to be, ready for regular 90s. I think they got to find a way to get those two playing together because, if they're both playing as well as they can and as well as Torden especially has been playing lately, they're going to be ready for anyone.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be interesting to see if that's a succession plan and if they're asking Torden to be patient because, again, Smith did sign that contract extension a little ways back. But the thing that's on the wall here continues to be that when her contract is up, what happens? Again, you got to assume Denver Summit are going to be out there with just a Brinks truck of money trying to entice her to come back home. There'll be lots of other teams who will be in the mix there. So it'll be interesting to see, because it feels like Torden is best as a 9. They're playing her a lot off the left wing, kind of as an inside left forward. Given Smith's mobility, that should be fine. But no, I agree. I think that's going to be really interesting to watch. At the other end of the table, while Sporting KC have kind of deservedly gotten a lot of stick this season for their struggles, Gotham might kind of be, I feel like, dodging the same kind of criticism because the defending champs have looked just plain bad despite bringing back their entire roster essentially and Tierna Davidson being healthy. I'm curious for your take on what on earth is going on over there in northern Jersey.
Well, I mean, I gotta shout out how many soccer hats you must be wearing just calling Kansas City Current Sporting KC. That's a easy mix up, but it made me laugh.
Mm-hmm.
Gotham is horrible. Gotham cannot score, but Gotham likes to do this. They like to trick the league and show up in the playoffs in the 8th slot and then win the whole thing. I don't think Gotham is worried at all. And, Jordan Dudley, my rookie of the year pick, I think a lot of people's rookie of the year pick, she's starting slow. And I think that's fine for Gotham. Jaden, she is not somebody you can really count on to play every game. Her health has been up and down. But when Jaden Shaw's out there, she's scoring goals. When Rose Lavelle's out there, healthy, feeling it, she's scoring goals. They're just off to a slow start.
Right. And Dudley, of course, just kind of coming off a ridiculous career at Florida State where she was putting up video game numbers the entire time she was there. And so, again, it's just, in a team that's got Jaden Shaw, Rose Lavelle, Esther, where does she fit into that team? And again, I'm just mostly intrigued to see Tierna Davidson get back to match fit. And because I still think in a perfect world, she would be my partner for Naomi Girma, which brings us to the U.S. Women's National Team, who are currently playing Japan 3 times in a row for some reason. The second of those 3 games is tonight, not long after this show wraps up. Tara, I'm curious what you're most interested to try to learn from this camp, because, I think, the race to partner Naomi Girma is really interesting. What's the pecking order at left back after Emma Hayes was like, oh, Lily Reel is the number 1, and then just started Giselle Thompson anyway, which Thompson would be my starter. I think the midfield group, is it going to definitely be Coffey, Hutton, Lavelle when the dust settles? I think that's really interesting. What's kind of like the leading thing you're trying to learn from the enigma that is Emma Hayes' roster decisions and lineup decisions over the course of this week?
My theory is that these 3 games, Emma is looking to see if anybody's playing their way off the roster. So often it's who's fighting for their spot, but it's the U.S. Women's National Team. Everybody's good. Everybody's going to show up good. They're fighting for their life out there just to make it on a plane to Brazil next year. So right. I think that she's desperately trying to find her answer to, cutting 3 or so names off of this roster. That's why I think Giselle got the run out game 1. She wants to see if she could handle herself against Japan. And I think she did very, very well. I think Lindsay Heaps is an incredible captain for this team. And I think she's being tested to see if she can still handle a top opponent like Japan. And where are our goals going to come from? I think Emma Hayes prays every single night that Katarina Macario is going to be healthy. And we've learned over 4 or 5 years that you can't count on that.
And this is now the second extended time in that period where Katarina Macario was just not playing soccer and no one's saying why. And again, it was weird last time. And then eventually, we heard she had some sort of surgery, and then she came back for Chelsea. It looked pretty good. And now she wasn't playing for Chelsea, and she signed for San Diego, and she isn't playing for San Diego, and no one has offered any sort of explanation as to what is going on here. Again, it's concerning. You can't rely on it because we would all love to see what does a national team with at least two of the three espressos and Macario out there look like. Can you even do that? What does it mean for the midfield? Again, it's basically avoiding a really, really difficult choice for Emma Hayes because she never has to make it because, there's never been a camp where triple espresso, Macario, and Lavelle have all been there. Has never happened. And
once we were starting to get word or starting to like do the math that Sophia was going to be available for this camp, at least I was thinking, and I think others were thinking, like, it might finally happen. So, Kat signed this record contract. You're not handing over a blank check like that for somebody who's never going to play. Chelsea had her with a heel injury. What's going on with that heel injury? Could this be the camp they're both together? But no, Sophia is back, which means Kat's got to hit the curb and figure something out health-wise.
Yeah, and again, we're very much at the point. I just want to see Catarina Macario playing soccer regularly, and then we can figure out again the World Cup's a year away. But you would be devastated if Macario, who of course is Brazilian American, was not able to be at that tournament because of how much I'm sure it would mean to her, but especially to her parents to be able to watch their daughter play in a World Cup for their adopted home country. In the country of their births. I think that that's a great storyline that kind of just writes itself in terms of like, somebody doing a feature on it and it being a TV package sort of thing. So, again, you wish the best for her. You mentioned, Hayes trying to cut people out. Of the 26, it feels like there's probably a good 20 names that are locks at this point. Yeah. But to your point, that spot, those next 6 spots, there's 20 players fighting for them. And so, yeah, I mean, it's what's going to end up happening is we are spoiled in this way is we're going to hem and haw and, there's going to be a lot of, hand wringing about the roster decisions come next May. And then it's basically not going to matter at all because if you've got, if you were to identify the top 15 players in the pool, if 12 of them at least are fit, this team should be favored to win the whole thing. I think I didn't see the final score, but Spain kind of stunk it up against England today at Wembley. Not really sure what's going on there. Caveat, Aitana Bonmati, out injured, did not play. So, that's not really Spain if she isn't there. But no, I really do in my gut believe that this team should be the favorites to win it all next summer. And and the best thing Emma Hayes has done is grown the depth to make it less scary when somebody just can't keep going. Mel Swanson back in training here in Chicago, which of course we found out from Mallory Swanson's Instagram, not from the Stars, because why would you announce that your star player, face of the franchise, is back in team training to get some hype going when your team is playing badly? No, you wouldn't do that. We find out she could have been in training for a day or 2 weeks. We have absolutely no clue with how long it had been because we found out in a photo dump that she included a picture of her and a Stars kid at training, sparse with pictures that were mostly her and her baby at Cubs games. Understandably so, because that is a lot going on for her right now.
I mean, talk about some Chicago detective work I was doing. I was just getting really, really tired of this. The triple espresso we will never see triple espresso on the same field together again. A talking point people like to say. And I listened to Mal Swanson on Michael Bush's wife's podcast. So, I am somewhat familiar with the Cubs, but I saw that Mal Swanson was talking to somebody publicly. And, she was on this podcast, clearly just her girlfriend. And they briefly spoke about soccer. And she's like, yeah, the plan is to come back and play when I'm ready. And that was enough for me. Mal saying she's coming back, good. We'll see you in Brazil.
Right. And then it's like, we get into semantics. Does Alyssa Thompson count as an espresso? She's, maybe we need some other coffee drink there. sort of thing. Because, well, and again, the espressos thing, that was not something fans came up with or people were making as a joke. They came up with that, and by they, I almost certainly mean Trinity Rodman. And it's like, all right, if you guys say so, no, because if you could have them and Thompson and Macario, again, the depth this team has, if they're ever fully fit, is terrifying. And if a fully fit US WNT rolls into the World Cup, like, that team should be favored over the field because just the depth and the talent is bananas. Obviously, Brazil is going to put up a good fight as hosts. That's exciting. The European giants are going to be what they are. But no, I mean, Emma Hayes has this team in a really good spot. I'm assuming we're going to see in the lineup tonight, which again should be dropping. Actually, probably should be out already. I'm anticipating a full change. So actually, while we're on the air here, before I sign off, I am just going to double check if we got a Jamise Joseph start, because I would be interested to note that on this CHGO Stars podcast while we were here, if Jamise Joseph is indeed starting. And it looks like they have not posted a lineup yet, because why would they have done that 45 minutes out from a kickoff? Well, with that said, we can all go off and look to see what that lineup ends up being, and then in other places, other venues, or hey, in the comments below this on your social media app of choice, have some Jamise Joseph discussion as the USWNT continues this experimental little window where they keep playing Japan over and over and over again. But hey, Stars fans, maybe you'll get to see Jamise Joseph score a goal, a thing that does not feel likely these days when she's playing for the Stars. That's going to do it for this edition of the podcast. But Tara, tell people where they can find Boots on the Ground and find what you and Vince are cooking up over there.
Yeah, Boots on the Ground is Scuffed's women's podcast, so search it anywhere you get podcasts. We're also pretty active over on Blue Sky, so you can find us there as well. Hopefully, for some Jamise Joseph talk tonight. I know it's a late kickoff, but fingers crossed she gets her start.
Right. So no, that would be fun. And again, it's just, we got to find the silver linings when the team is in the state they are currently in. Thank you to Sarah and Sean behind the scenes, making the show go. Always appreciate you guys. Thank you again to Tara. Thank you everybody who joined us live here on YouTube or listened wherever you are getting your podcasts. Really appreciate you doing so. We'll see you back here in a few weeks. Hopefully the Stars will have at least scored a goal by then. Until then, I'm Alex Campbell, and I'll see you next time on CHGO Stars.
We all silly like the mayor.